Hello, everybody. More enthusiastic than the last group. Today I'll be giving one sermon, and Gino will be giving the second sermon, and they're both great. So here we go. My verse that I chose is Proverbs 13:20, and it is, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." And so, essentially, to me, this verse is saying that we're supposed to surround ourselves with good people that encourage you to grow in your faith, and don't surround yourself with people that will draw you away from your faith. So if you'll allow me to share my testimony of how I grew to have wise friends such as these mentioned in the verse. But I'd just like to preface it by saying I'm a very bad storyteller, so I'm going to try to stick to my notes and try to make it as engaging as possible, so just bear with me. All right. It all started in 2014 on a youth mission trip to Lake J, where the only friend I had, someone you may know, Mr. Noah Sutton. Even then, though, we weren't the best of friends. We were sort of friends, not super good friends, as we are today. However, on the spiritual retreat, he and I, along with a few other kids who were on the trip, really found ourselves being together at every opportunity, and we really bonded on that trip, spiritually and overall. We would always sit together and worship, eat together, spend free time together, and this was a friend group unlike any I'd ever had before at school or anything. Since that trip, all of us hung out outside of church, and we always looked forward to going to church to see each other. On the surface, it seemed that we would go to church just to see each other and hang out, but we really ended up going back every time because we knew we would grow more spiritually with our best friends present with us than not, so that they could encourage us and grow with us as we cannot spiritually grow by ourselves. A famous Christian band has a song dedicated to this titled "No Man is an Island." This song perfectly fits into my message today, as the lyrics contain things such as, "No man is an island, we can be found," and "Oh my friend, let me in, I will share your tears." And later it repeats, "We're not meant to live this life alone." I feel like that's such a strong statement, as we can't live our lives in isolation, for we must let others in to help us in our spiritual journeys. We require friends to help us through the hard times because the grief is just too much for one person to bear. For in these times, it's easy to put yourself down, which is why a strong support group can make all the difference in the world, and they can help share your pain. And if the relationship carries on, the spiritual support will only keep growing. Flash forward years later through the better half of 2018, and I can still say that these people in my life are still monumentally important to me, and they spiritually intrigue me in many ways, shapes, and forms that they don't even know. So, through this testimony, the message I was trying to convey to you, and I hope that you all got, sort of, was, while you may not be able to be the best of friends with everyone sitting next to you today, I encourage you to reach out and find some good people who will encourage you in your faith, pray for you when necessary, and all in all, be there for you when you need it the most. And the second part of this is to reciprocate these actions, as that will build the relationship. And as for the second part of the verse, "Do not be a companion of a fool," my thoughts are these. Do not let these fools influence you in negative ways, but instead be the positive influence that will turn these fools wise and lead them to Christ. For that is exactly what Jesus did himself all throughout his life. Jesus devoted his life to bringing his love to people who society considered bad people or fools. To name a few, Jesus brought tax collectors like Matthew and Pharisees who condemned and persecuted Christians like Paul. Jesus brought them to know him and feel his love. And these two people that I named, as you may know, went on to write some of the most well-known books in the New Testament. So, even the most foolish people in society can flip around and become a teacher for everyone and anyone, and a strong one at that. So I say to you, do not do the easy thing and simply avoid all the said fools. Reach out to them and invite them in, because, church, we should let no man be an island. Thank you.
Hey guys. Well, I would just like to start off by saying I've been a part of this youth group for 7 years, and it's been the greatest years of my life. And although I haven't been able to be as active this past year, the impact of the youth group that it left on me has been remarkable. There have been a lot of things that have definitely tried to bring me down during this journey. Around the time of high school starting, I wasn't really ready when my parents sat me and my sister down and told us that they were starting the process for getting separated. Well, for a 14-year-old boy, or anybody really, that's heartbreaking. That really puts a dampen on everything that happens in your life. I felt like it was my fault, like I was repeatedly doing something wrong and that this was caused by my actions. And eventually I just shut everything out and I placed all the blame on my dad. And it really strained our relationship. It made it to the point where we didn't even talk anymore. And although I kept all this inside and I just didn't want to do anything, the youth were always very welcoming, the youth leaders were always very loving and always listening to me. And I remember one day when I was just scrolling through my phone, my email popped up with the Bible verse for today. And it was Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. And although the verse is very short, it changed my view on every situation since I've read it. It read, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path." Two verses that impact so much meaning. So let me break it down. First, he's saying, do not rely on yourself any longer, and give up your fears to him. Then he is saying, once you trust and believe in him fully, he will lead you down any path in all your journeys. For me, that was giving up my fear of my parents. That was giving up the regrets. That was giving up the weight of thinking it's my fault. And once I gave that fear up, it allowed me to be myself again. It allowed me to feel like I belonged. It allowed me to be happy. And eventually, my parents ended up getting back together on their own. And it wasn't really my fault. And they live under the same roof again. And although the past can never really truly be forgotten, me and my dad, we're now best friends, and I can't do anything without him. I know there's going to be trials in everyone's lives, but God says that you can lean on him for all your strength. And he's given me that strength. And through this youth group, I've learned that I don't need to worry about anything because I'll always have a family to go to. Thank you guys for allowing me to share my story. Have a blessed Sunday.
You know, one of the things that's extremely difficult for young people to do is to stand up in front of a group of people when they don't have any experience speaking in front of people. Matt can attest to that. Last year he was nervous. Anybody that's ever done that, you get really nervous. But these kids, these young men, got up and shared a very important aspect of their lives. And what's important too is how people and events and things that they've done as part of the youth group have shaped who they are. You know, before I made a commitment to Christ, I was involved. I grew up in the church. I went to youth group every week because my mom said, "You're going to youth group." I was in church every week because my mom said, "You're going to church." It wasn't an option. How many people were like that? Okay? Well, I think it turned out okay for me. I'm still working on things, but the point I want to make is that God's grace is at work in our lives long before we know that it's working in our lives, drawing us, calling us, wooing us, enticing us to come and follow him. Well, that's what youth group is all about. Whether it's an international mission trip, or it's going to Lake Junaluska, or going to Lynchburg, or going to some place, Blue Knob, Pennsylvania, wherever it might be, God calls us and puts us there. And through those events and through the people, the friends that you make, the people that influence your lives, the Sunday school teachers that have an impact on your lives, our lives are never the same again. How blessed we are, and we are so proud of you guys. We're going to miss you terribly, but that's part of being in a youth group. You grow up and you go on in life, but our doors are always open and welcoming you back into our church. So we're glad that you did that.